All right, Rockfin is up and going, and here we go. Doobie-doobie-doo. 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 I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. Doobie-doobie-doo. 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 I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. Doobie-doobie-doo. All right, all right. Happy Monday, guys. Welcome to Sabs Podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you are new, I want to let you know that Sabs Podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursday for the Roundtable and Friday for the Sabby Show. And you can catch me here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Want to give a quick shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, and Twitter. And shout out to everyone here in the chat. So let's go ahead and say hello to people in the chat. What's going on? NYU Trig says, hard to believe they would say anything negative about AOC. Well, we're going to have that discussion tonight. Can't wait to get into that. What's going on, Hanny? Hannah G says, Sabby with a smiley face. Shout out to Miguel H says, happy Monday. Peace. What's going on? Yipper99 says Monday again, 3.3. Shout out to Lawrence Johnson says doobie doobie doo. He's also a Sabby member. What's going on? Gamer and Ganja for Life says happy Monday to all. Shout out to Kenchi says, hey, Sabby dear, happy Monday. Happy Monday to you too. Greetings, Bryce says, hello, everyone. Hey, Sabby. Hey, hey, hey. I don't know why I said it like that. Shout out to Niles Deuce. Life is too short for Sam Seder. Psalm, I am out. I don't know what that means, but welcome. What's going on? Leroy says peace. He's also a Sabby member. Shout out to Kim says doobie doobie doo. Hi, Sabby. Hello, Kim. Greetings, Notori says, I fucking love you. Oh, thanks so much, Notori. I love you too. Shout out to Yasmin says, hi, everyone. All right, all right. Greetings, Eric T. Red, who's a Sabby member, says, howdy, Monday, friends. Greetings, Smoke a Guitar. Oh, well, that's an interesting name. Says, yo, what's up, Smoke a Guitar? What is going on? Shout out to Jonathan Cooper says, hey, Sabs and everyone. Can't wait to hear your reports. Oh, boy. I can't wait to get into this tonight. Shout out to Ashura says, the Chris Smalls thumbnail is funny. Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, man. Shout out to Vegan Goddess says, good evening, all. What's going on? Eric Gray says, hey, everybody. Shout out to Janice says, hi, everyone. What's going on? I hate work 420. By the way, I still love that name. Says, hi, Sabby and everyone here. What's going on? Whoopsies. Captain Obvious says, sup, peeps. All right, guys. Welcome, welcome all. I hope you had a good weekend. I want to give a quick shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron, and we do have some newbies. So, thanks so much to everyone who is a Sabby patron. If you are interested, I have 5 categories: members, Sabby, Sabsters, Sabinators, and the ultimate. Shout out to all of you. You guys are rock stars. And a huge stout out. Oh, man. I've only had tea today, I swear. A huge shout out to new Sabby patrons, Christy Beckford, Carlos Estevez, Tasha Votman, and Denise D. Thank you all. Welcome, welcome. And all of the patrons' names are scrolling across the bottom of the screen as well. All right, what are we talking about tonight? Let's go ahead and share here This should be an interesting discussion. Tonight, we're talking about Emma Vigeland and Sam Seder critique AOC. What? Is this possible? Is it possible, ladies and gentlemen? I'm also discussing Chris Hedges calls out defense. That's an interesting story. And last but not least is Amazon pushes back. Now, that is not good news, but I'll get into that in just a second. So I think I am going to start with the Amazon story. So let's go ahead and get into that. So for those who do not know or may not be aware, I think everyone knows this by now, but just in case you're new, Chris Smalls has been leading the movement to unionize Amazon, and he was successful in creating the first Amazon union in the United States at the Staten Island location. That was the location that he formerly was an employee of. And this has created a lot of noise. Chris Smalls has been on multiple shows talking about this, also applauding the other organizers who organized with him. That's one thing I think is really great about Chris Smalls. You know, this has not gone to his head. He's still the same person. He's making sure that he's giving shout out to the other organizers that participated and helped him as well. So I think that that's really important. Sometimes people get these big wins and they become heroic in a way, and it can kind of go to their head. I think we've seen that happen with people before in the past. But recently, Amazon, obviously, as you can imagine, is not happy about this. And they have decided to push back. So let's go ahead and get into this. Amazon seeks to overturn union win. Says the vote was tainted. Of course, right? Of course. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Amazon is seeking to overturn the historic union victory at one of its New York City warehouses, arguing in a legal filing Friday that union organizers and the National Labor Relations Board acted in a way that tainted the results. It now wants to redo the election. Oh boy. I'm actually gonna, what did I do? I don't know what I did there. Okay. I'm trying to move this over to the other screen. Okay. So let me say something really quick before I go further into this story. Amazon attempting to redo this election, that's just to buy time. This is a way for them to come back and say, wait a minute, there were some mistakes here, which, by the way, I do not believe that. I don't believe that at all. This is just a way for them to buy time so that they can go in and do what they need to do and make it so that the vote turns out a different way. I 100% believe that. I think it is absolutely a shame that they don't even want to give people a union, a company that is this wealthy. They don't even want to give them basic, decent rights. And this is one of the problems that we have with capitalism in this country, all over the world, actually. This is what happens. You have a few people at the top that are very greedy, and they want to exploit the people at the bottom. It's not that Amazon can't afford to give these employees these benefits. They can afford to do it. They just don't want to, because they want all the wealth concentrated at the top. That's how greedy they are. And it's not just them, it's other corporations as well. It's Walmart. They're the second, Amazon's the second largest company in the United States. Walmart is number one. And for years, Walmart didn't want to give their employees decent benefits either. It is through these successful strikes, these labor movements, where we as a people are really going to win. And before I get back into the article, I do want to remind everyone, this was not done through electoral politics. I think you guys all know that story, how AOC said that she would be there to help the Amazon employees in Staten Island for one of their events. She said she was going to be there and she ghosted them and she decided not to show. But then she wanted to try to take some type of credit on Twitter. So I think one thing that's important to note, and I'll continue to say that, These labor wins that have happened in this country over the past year and a half have not been done through electoral politics. That's John Deere. That's Kellogg. That's the nurses here in Massachusetts at St. Vincent's Hospital. They've been going on for like the past year and a half, and none of them have been done through electoral politics. What has happened is that some of these politicians have shown up after the fact and tried to take some type of, I don't know, try to take some type of support for this, or pretending like they were involved, or trying to like claim like they were a part of it. That has happened after they've won. Then you hear these politicians speaking out. But where are they during the fight? So that's just something I want you to keep in mind. Let's go back into the article here. The e-commerce giant lists, I got to move this to a different screen. The e-commerce giant listed 25 objections in the filing obtained by the Associated Press, accusing organizers with the nascent Amazon labor union of intimidating workers to vote for the union. A claim an attorney representing the group has called patently absurd. The employees have spoken. Now, this is coming from Eric Milner. He's the attorney. He said in a statement Thursday after Amazon's initial planned objections were made public in another legal filing. Amazon is choosing to ignore that. Instead, engage in stalling tactics. What did I tell you guys? This is just a way for them to buy more time. Engage in stalling tactics to avoid the inevitable, coming to the bargaining table and negotiating for a contract. So he's speaking on behalf of the workers. Warehouse workers in Staten Island cast 2,654 votes, or about 55% in favor of a union, giving the fledgling group enough support to pull off a victory last Friday. First of all, for the people who voted against it, I'm looking at you sideways. I really am. For the Amazon employees that voted against it, I'm looking at you some kind of way. Why would you not want to be guaranteed some type of rights, some type of benefits? Why would you not want that? Or were they co-opted? Were those workers threatened? Were they afraid that they would lose their job if they didn't vote for it? Just something to think about. Going back in one objection, Amazon said organizers intentionally created hostile confrontations in front of eligible voters by interrupting the mandatory meetings the company held to persuade its employees to reject the union drive. In a filing released earlier this month, the company disclosed it spent about $4.2 million last year on labor consultants. I also want to add in here, for those who are not aware, Chris Smalls also said that Amazon spent $25 million to try to stop them from unionizing, by the way. $25 million, money that could have been put towards greater use. Imagine what that money could have done for homeless people in this country. Just saying. In another objection, Amazon targeted organizers' distribution of cannabis to workers, saying the labor board cannot condone such a practice as a legitimate method of obtaining support for a labor organization. New York legalized the recreational use of marijuana last year for those over 21. Milner, the attorney representing the union, said Amazon is grasping at straws. Let's talk about that for just a second, you guys. Why does it matter that they were giving out cannabis? It's not illegal in New York anymore. So why is that even relevant? I believe that they're pointing at that just so they can try to make it seem like the employees were not competent when they made their vote. Seems like something they would do, right? Oh, well, their vote probably wasn't legitimate because they were high. Just seems like something they would do. Just something to point out. It does not matter. They're adults. I'm pretty sure those of them who did consume cannabis have already consumed cannabis before. I don't think this was a let me try it out now kind of thing. They're adults. They know what they're doing. And I don't think that influenced their decision, their vote at all. I think this is BS. I think Amazon is being ridiculous and they're trying to pick at any little thing that they can find to make it seem like the voters were not credible. I think that's important to note. Here we go. Distributing cannabis is no different than distributing free t shirts, and it certainly did not act to interfere with the election, he said. The company also accused organizers of improperly polling workers. So, if the company knew that this was going on, like I said, I think they're lying. If they felt that this was going on, why didn't they intervene at that time? Why did they wait until after they won and now they want to challenge it? Now they have a problem with the way things were handled. If they would have lost, would they say this? No, no. The retailer had initially signaled it planned to challenge the election results because of a lawsuit the NARB filed in March. I lost my spot. There we go. In which the board sought to force Amazon to reinstate a fired employee who was involved in the union drive. Amazon pointed to the lawsuit in one of its objections filed Friday, saying the regional NLRB office that brought the suit failed to protect the integrity and neutrality of its procedures and had created an impression of support for the union by seeking reinstatement for the former employee, Gerald Bryson. Based on the evidence we've seen so far, as set out in our objections, we believe that the actions of the NLRB and the ALU improperly suppressed and influenced the vote. And we think the election should be conducted again so that a fair and broadly representative vote can be had. This is ridiculous. That's coming from Kelly Nantle. She's an Amazon spokesperson. Bryson was fired in the early days of the pandemic after leading a protest calling the company to do more to protect workers against the 1-9. While off the job during the protest, Bryson got into a dispute with another worker and was later fired for violating Amazon's vulgar language policy, according to his attorney, Frank Curl. Hold up. Vulgar language policy? Really? Are they serious? The same company that had employees peeing in bottles. Okay. Okay. Oh boy. The NLRB did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Of course not. Its spokesperson, Kayla Blotto, previously said the independent agency is authorized by Congress to enforce the National Labor Relations Act. All NLRB enforcement actions against Amazon have been consistent with that congressional mandate. In other objections, Amazon targeted how the labor agency conducted the election. It said the agency failed to control media presence around the voting area and didn't have enough staff and equipment, which the company says created long lines and discouraged many employees from voting in subsequent polling sessions. Let's talk about this for a second. Let's talk about these long lines in this media presence when it comes to voting. When you vote for politicians, especially those in the recent one, in 2020 election, there were long lines. There was a media presence. I remember I had friends in Atlanta. One of my friends DM'd me and told me it was a 10 to 14 hour wait at her polling site in Atlanta. People still waited. There was definitely media presence. The news was there. So Amazon is talking about this like this is something new, like this has never happened before, like this is unusual. Listen, if people really want to put the vote through, if they are that determined to do so, they'll wait it out. I've seen people do this for political campaigns, political elections. I've seen people do it all the time. They'll bring a chair, a blanket, some snacks, some drinks, and wait it out. I would definitely be certain that when it comes to something that's more personal to you, such as your place of employment and you getting certain benefits, or you being able to vote against starting a union if you're that passionate about it, I'm willing to bet they would wait that out too. So again, I think they're grasping at straws. I really do think so. In reference to the media presence, I think the only reason they're upset that the media was there is not so much because they feel it influenced the voters. It's because they didn't like the fact that the media covered it at all. Let's be clear. Amazon is not happy that this is all over the news. Not only are they not happy that the workers at Amazon won, they are also not happy that this vote even took place to begin with. They're not happy that these workers organized. Let's remember the reason why Chris Smalls was let go in the first place. If we go all the way back to almost 2 years ago, the reason why they let him go is because he was trying to organize the workers. That's what this is really about. They're angry because their dirty laundry of their corrupt, greedy company is all over major news. That's why they're pissed. Let's go back in. Meanwhile, both Amazon and the Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union, a union that spearheaded a separate union drive in Bessemer, Alabama, have filed objections to that election. The final outcome of the union vote in Alabama is still up in the air, with 416 outstanding challenge ballots in the balance. Initial results show the union down by 118 votes, with the majority of Amazon warehouse workers rejecting a bid to form. Oh, is this a spelling? This is a typo. Rejecting a bid to form unionize should be rejecting a bid to form a union. That's a typo, guys. That's a typo. I'm sorry. That's the English major coming out in me. But for those who are not aware, Chris Smalls and organizers tried to start a union in Alabama. That was earlier last year. They were trying to organize in Alabama. That one was not successful. But as you saw in this article I just told you, they still have over 415 outstanding ballots in Alabama for the Amazon union. So they haven't even counted them all. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know why they're still there. But it's been a couple of months since that happened. So that is very strange to me. I don't know why they are holding those ballots for Amazon there. Captain Obvious said, damn you typos, damn you straight to hell. Sorry, the hill, but I picked up on that. What's going on? Yepex says hi. One more piece here, and then I'm going to open it up to the chat. Let me unhighlight this, unhighlight that. RWDSU, which filed more than 20 objections, said in its filing Thursday that its objections are grounds to set the election aside. A hearing to review the challenge ballots is expected to begin in the coming weeks. So let's go ahead and open this up to the chat. So I'm gonna go to some of the comments here. Gamer and Ganja for Life said, I don't trust Amazon at all. I don't either. Again, I think this is just a way for them to buy time so that they can make some changes, if you know what I mean. Greg Bruce, who's a Sabby member, says large companies are often very good at propagandizing their employees against unions. That's good to know. I actually have never been a part of a union. I have not been lucky in that sense, but that's really good to know. I've always wondered that, like, why would you go against giving yourself those like better benefits? Blue Lantern says Amazon wants to speak to NLRB's manager. I guess so. Captain Obvious said smoking weed leading to unionization is the best argument for both legalization and unionization I've heard in about a decade. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah. So I sincerely hope they are not able to overturn this. I don't think that that's fair. I think that the workers have clearly spoken up here, and hopefully that does not happen. I'm still waiting to hear what's going to happen to those other ballots in Alabama to see how that turns out. So I'm going to be paying like close attention to this story. So I'll keep you posted and updated on that. And I'm still trying to get Chris Smalls to come back on. He's really busy right now, as you can imagine. But I don't want Amazon to take this away from the organizers. I do not want them to take this away from them. I think that Amazon has the money. I think that they are corrupt. I think that they are greedy. And I think they need to give these employees benefits and better wages. And I will tell you this, ever since they unionized, every time I turn on the TV, I see an Amazon commercial. Come work at Amazon. This is great. Look at all the benefits I get. Look at everything I get. This is great. Don't you want to come work at Amazon too? It's just funny to me. Even last year, they had Terry Crews in on it. For those of you who don't know, Terry Crews, an actor, he was in the movie White Chicks. He was the father on Everybody Hates Chris. Even he was in on the game. That's how this works, you guys. I told you, a lot of times these companies will get celebrities, particularly a lot of times Black celebrities, to push their agenda, to push propaganda to people. Rob B said, it's brutal, Sabby. The corp will send pamphlets and emails about how joining a union hurts the worker. Wow, Rob. Wow. Oh my God. Oh boy. Hit that like button, guys. That really helps me out with the algorithm here. Bryce said, I'm applying now because Sabs did that. I'm hooked. Oh, man. Oh, man. Okay. Let's go ahead and get into my second story. Now, this is about Chris Hedges. So, for those of you who are not aware, Chris Hedges was removed from YouTube. He is a part of the crop of people that had shows on RT, and they were, RT was done, and then they also removed those shows from YouTube as well. It's him, Lee Camp, and Abby Martin. So since then, Chris Hedges has actually started a Substack, and I don't know if everyone was familiar with that or not. I'm not sure if he had one before, but I didn't remember seeing one from him before. But he is on Substack, and I've been checking out some of his articles, and there was one that he wrote recently about war propaganda and about the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And I want you to take a look at this. Now, I believe this came out yesterday. It's called The Pimps of War. So this is really interesting. And I don't know if everyone is aware of this, but Chris Hedges, actually, he's been to some of these countries where we've had these conflicts. So he talks about that a little bit as well. I'm not going to read the entire article, but there are certain parts here that I do want you to pay attention to. So this is The Pimps of War. He says the same cabal of war mongering pundits, foreign policy specialists, and government officials, year after year, debacle after debacle, smudgely dodge responsibility for the military fiascos they orchestrate. They are approaching, shifting adroitly with the political winds, moving the Republican Party to the Democratic Party and then back again. Mutating from cold warriors to neocons to liberal interventionists. Pseudo-intellectuals, they exude a cloying Ivy League snobbery as they sell perpetual fear, perpetual war, and a racist world view, where the lesser breeds of the earth only understand violence. Now, let's talk about this part right here. Moving from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party and then back again. This is something that I want people to fully understand, and I've mentioned this a couple times before on this show and on other people's shows as well. When we talk about these differences between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, they're not as different as many people think. Most of the differences come in on the social issues, right? But even today, that's a little bit questionable. That's a little bit questionable if you follow the legislation. One of the issues where the Republicans and the Democrats both seem to agree on is war. Recently, I was on a podcast by Massachusetts Peace Action. By the way, if you don't follow them on YouTube, definitely follow them. They've interviewed like Ronnie Akalik and Max Blumenthal. It's really, really good channel. But it's an organization here in Massachusetts. They're anti-war, anti-imperialist. So definitely check them out. But I said this recently on their show as well, that both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party are both pro-war. Regardless of the presidents that we've had, they all support it, at least within my lifetime. I'll give you a couple of examples. Ronald Reagan supported it. Bill Clinton supported it. Barack Obama supported it. George W. Bush supported it. Trump, I think, in some ways, I have to go back and check that out. But even with Trump, even in some ways, he supported some intervention as well. And now we have Joe Biden, and Joe Biden, obviously, you see with the conflict with Ukraine and Russia, Joe Biden also supports war. Both parties are filled with warmongers. You can name out different people from even within my lifetime. Madeleine Albright, she was a warmonger. Colin Powell was a warmonger. Now, again, they may have been in two different parties, but they're both pro-war. And this is something I feel like a lot of times when people are deciding if they're going to be a Republican or a Democrat, and again, I told you both parties are trash, but this is the issue that I realized, like with talking to people, they don't seem to realize that both parties support it. Both parties are totally fine with intervening in other conflicts in other countries. Both parties are fine with drone strikes, as we've seen under the Obama administration. We've seen it under Joe Biden. We've also seen this under W as well. Both parties are fine with it because for them, what it does is it creates this narrative that the United States is the country that is the one that's in the right. We are supposed to be the saviors. We're the good guys. You guys ever notice that? The United States government is always the good guys, supposedly. And all of the other countries that are having these conflicts, they're the ones that are the bad guys, and we have to go in and take them out. This is the narrative that they paint on mainstream media, that the politicians paint as well. And it encourages other Americans to be pro-war without even realizing that they're doing it. This leads to the destruction of civilians in those countries. It leads to sanctions of those countries. It leads to starving, homelessness, people in those countries. We can point to several examples right now: Afghanistan, Somalia, Yemen, several. The problem is that most people that I've spoken to, they're so focused on the "we are the good guys" phrase that they don't dig deeper and do their own research and see all of the other effects of war in those countries, how the civilians struggle, how they suffer, and what the United States government is actually doing to those countries. And another thing I want to add before I go back into this article as well, a lot of times this has to deal with resources and economic issues. For example, you heard Ro Khanna say this himself recently in that interview. I think I played this last week. He said recently, the goal is to cripple Russia's economy. The goal is to bring Russia's economy to its knees. Those are his words, not mine. You see, the United States is constantly looking at China. They've already made people, some Americans have bought into this propaganda and believe that, oh, Russia is a bad place. We need to hate people from Russia. They're doing the same thing with China. These are two countries that economically, they're all right. China, they don't need us. We need them. We don't even make anything in this country anymore. You guys realize we don't produce. What do we make? What do we produce? That is why they're eyeing China, because they see that countries like China, they have eradicated 95% of homelessness in China. They are doing fine without us. And I reported this last year, that China's net worth has now surpassed the United States. So mark my words, they'll be going after them next. And I'm calling it. They'll be going after them next. Russia, in reference to the economy, they were doing great. They were doing fine. That is the reason why the United States government wants to take those countries out. A lot of the interventions involve resources. We were in Afghanistan. Part of the reason we were in Afghanistan was because of opium. This whole ordeal with Russia and Ukraine involves a pipeline. There's usually some type of resource or something in it for the United States to get involved. And I want to make that clear to people who are not aware, right? Who are not aware of why these things are happening. The United States wants to be number one economically. They want to be the best in the world, and they want to continue to police the world. And any country that comes up behind the United States that starts to get close to where we are economically, or is going to pass us economically, they will find a way to target them too, and they will try to brainwash all of you and everybody else who's watching on mainstream media that we need to hate those countries and hate those people, and they will smear them just like they're doing now. Let me go back into the article. So there's another part here that I wanted to point out. Whoopsie. The pimps of war, puppets of the Pentagon, a state within a state, and the defense contractors who lavishly fund their think tanks. Listen to this. Project for the New American Century, American Enterprise Institute, Foreign Policy Initiative, Institute for the Study of War, Atlantic Council, and Brookings Institution. Why did I want to mention these to you? Because if you're just glancing at these think tanks, for the most part, their names do not sound suspect. Project for the New American Century. Does that sound like they're involved in defense? No. American Enterprise Institute. Well, that can mean a lot of things, right? Atlantic Council and Brookings Institution. This is done on purpose, by the way. Just something that I wanted to point out. It doesn't matter how wrong they are, how absurd their theories, how many times they lie or denigrate other cultures and societies as uncivilized, or how many murderous military interventions go bad. They are immovable props. The parasitic mandarins of power that are vomited up in the dying days of any empire, including ours, leaping from one self-defeating catastrophe to the next. And that is what they do. So it's really important that people pay close attention to these think tanks. When you see these names of these think tanks come up on CNN or MSNBC, Google them and see what they actually do and who they are connected to. That's really important. This is another thing I've also told people about nonprofits as well. A lot of these nonprofits, it sounds good in theory, but when you actually research those nonprofits, you realize a lot of times they're funded by or they're connected to a CEO, a millionaire, a billionaire, and the profits aren't going to places that you think they would go to. That's important. Let's go back in. Now, this is what Chris is talking about by his experience. Just for people who are wondering, I spent 20 years as a foreign correspondent reporting on the suffering, misery, and murderous rampages these shills for war engineered and funded. So he knows this from firsthand. My first encounter with them was in Central America. Elliot Abrams, convicted of providing misleading testimony to Congress on the Iran-Contra affair and later pardoned by President George H.W. Bush so he could return to government to sell us the Iraq War. That's important for people to know. Here we go. Let's say it again. My first encounter with them was in Central America. Elliot Abrams, convicted of providing misleading testimony to Congress on the Iran-Contra affair, and then later pardoned by George H. Bush so he could return to the government to sell us the Iraq War. And I think we all know how that turned out. That's one of the examples. There's another portion I want to mention here. They and their coterie of fellow war lovers went on to push for the expansion of NATO in Central and Eastern Europe after the fall of the Berlin Wall, violating an agreement not to extend NATO beyond the borders of a unified Germany and a reckless, antagonizing Russia. I also think that's something that's important for people to know too. And I'm not sure if everyone is aware of that. That was a part of the agreement after the Berlin Wall was torn down. NATO was not supposed to expand. It expanded anyway. And this led to other conflicts. This is part of the reason that leads to the conflict that we're in right now with Ukraine and Russia. Part of it, not all of it. Let's go back in. So there's another portion here. They were the authors of the policy to invade Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, and Libya. Robert Kagan and William Crystal, with their typical cluelessness, wrote in April 2002 that the road leads to real security and peace is the road that runs through Baghdad. I have to look that up. I have to look into that. We saw how that worked out. That road led to the dissolution of Iraq, the destruction of its civilian infrastructure, including the obliteration of 18 of 20 electricity generating plants and nearly all of the water pumping and sanitation systems during a 43-day period when 90,000 tons of bombs were rained down on the country, the rise of radical jihadist groups throughout the region, and failed states. The war in Iraq, along with the humiliating defeat in Afghanistan, shredded the illusion of U.S. military and global hegemony. Let's go down here. I want to show you the part about Joe Biden. The Biden administration is filled with these ignoramuses, including Joe Biden. Victoria Nuland, the wife of Robert Kagan, pay attention to this, you guys, serves as Biden's Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs. Anthony Blinken is Secretary of State. Jake Sullivan is National Security Advisor. They come from this cabal of moral and intellectual trolls that includes Kimberly Kagan, the wife of Fred Kagan, who founded the Institute for the Study of War, William Crystal, Max Boot, John Podhoretz, Gary Schmidt, Richard Pearl, Douglas Feith, David Frum, and others. Many were once staunch Republicans or, like Nuland, served in Republican and Democratic administrations. Nuland was the principal deputy foreign policy advisor to Vice President Dick Cheney. So what does this tell you? What does this tell you about Joe Biden and more importantly, the two-party system. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if they're Republican or Democrat, especially when it comes down to war, because that's something that both parties agree on. So Joe Biden's administration has people in his administration that have served on the Republican side and on the Democratic side, but it doesn't matter because they are going to push pro-war agenda. I'm going to go to some of the comments in the chat. Leroy said, all they do is cover each other. Exactly. Meanwhile, they will make sure that we continue to fight and argue with each other over these culture war issues. Orange man bad. They'll make sure that we're distracted by that so that we're not paying attention to the fact that at the end of the day, both of these parties are really working together. They're both corporate. They're both pro-war. The only time they really split is on the social issues. And that's how we're divided. I'm going to go to some of these comments and I'll go back in. This is a really good article, you guys. Colorado People News said Hedges plans to make enough money on Substack, I think you mean, to restore his on contact show. That's interesting to note. Eric O said, what happened to a pro-peace, pro-labor, and pro-social equity party? Oh, yeah, I forgot. It was sold to the lowest bidder. Yep, X said, hope Sabby clips out this Chris Hedges discussion. Yeah, I can do that. I can do that. Venus said, always follow the money. Sebastian says, let's not forget that the current head of defense is from a defense contract company. There you go. They all scratch each other's back when it comes to these types of issues. They just remain divided over the social issues. But at the end of the day, they're all about money. They're all serving corporations and Wall Street, and they're both pro-war. There's another portion I want to show you here. And Dick Cheney was horrible, by the way. God. Okay. They are united by the demand for larger and larger defense budgets and an ever expanding military. Julian Benda called those quarters to power the self-made barbarians of the intelligentsia. Interesting word there. But they are united by the demand for larger and larger defense budgets and an ever-expanding military. And why would they be united over that? Let's think about it for a second. Under the Biden administration, they gave the military-industrial complex $768 billion. Now, I showed this chart a while back. I'll have to pull it up again for you guys to show you the numbers. But this was comparing the amounts that would go towards Biden's Build Back Better plan. $768 billion to the military industrial complex. And when you went to the other categories, such as paid family leave, when you went to free community college, when you went to all the other social issues or social programs, very little money was allocated towards those. This was the plan. Very little was allocated towards those. But the military industrial complex was receiving the huge bulk load of the money, $768 billion. And here's the thing. The reason why both of them would be united over that is because of money. You have all these other defense contractors. You have Raytheon, you have Lockheed Martin, all these other companies that are getting paid for this. They make money for this. They make the weapons and everything for the military industrial complex. It's not just people who are in the armed forces. So I do want to say that to people who may not fully understand, military industrial complex doesn't just mean people who are in the armed forces. That also applies to all these defense contractors that also make the weapons for the armed forces. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So it's a lot of money that they're giving to the MIC. Now, if they were to disagree on that in a sense, well, then they would have to still put that money somewhere, right? Then they would have to give the money to the people. They would have to put more money into free college. They would have to allocate more money towards universal health care. Then they would have to serve the people. As long as they have an excuse, well, we have this conflict in this country, we have this conflict in another country. That is a way for them to defend that bloated military industrial complex budget. And as long as they have their hands in some other country's affairs, they can point to that and say, well, we needed that money because, this conflict with Ukraine and Russia. We needed that money because Afghanistan. Oh, we need that money because, China, we might have to go after them. That's why both of them would be united. There's a lot of money in that. There's not really a lot of money in helping the people. That's what I want people to really get from this. Let's go back in. There's another portion here. They once railed against liberal weakness and appeasement, but they swiftly migrated to the Democratic Party rather than support Donald Trump, who showed no desire to start a conflict with Russia and who called the invasion of Iraq a big, fat mistake. Besides, as they correctly pointed out, Hillary Clinton was a fellow neocon. And liberals wonder why nearly half the electorate who revile against, who revile these arrogant, unelected power brokers as they should, voted for Trump. Let's say this one more time again, guys. This is important to note. They once railed against liberal weakness and appeasement, but they swiftly migrated to the Democratic Party rather than support Donald Trump, who showed no desire to start a conflict with Russia and who called the invasion of Iraq a big, fat mistake. Besides, as they correctly pointed out, Hillary Clinton was a fellow neocon. And liberals wonder why nearly half the electorate who reviled these arrogant, unelected power brokers as they should, voted for Trump. It really, really makes you think, you guys. It really makes you think when you look at it. Let me go back in. These ideologues did not see the corpses of their victims. I did, including children. Every dead body I stood over in Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Gaza, Iraq, Sudan, Yemen, or Kosovo, month after month, year after year, exposed their moral bankruptcy, their intellectual dishonesty, and their sick bloodlust. They did not serve in the military. Their children do not serve in the military, but they eagerly ship young American men and women off to fight and die for their self-delusional dreams of empire and American hegemony. Or, as in Ukraine, they provide hundreds of millions of dollars in weaponry and logistical support to sustain long and bloody proxy wars. This portion here about the children, let me speak about this for a second. One of the excuses about the conflict in Afghanistan, I remember people were saying we can't leave Afghanistan because we have to help the women and the children. And they've used that line with just about every conflict I've experienced in my lifetime. We have to go there because we have to save the women and the children. And a lot of Americans believe that. You'd be surprised. But if you really are trying to save the women and the children, you wouldn't escalate any type of conflict there in the first place, because it's the women and the children who are just civilians there, who are just trying to live their everyday life, that are not fighting in these wars. They didn't sign up for this. They're the ones, the innocent people that are being killed. Innocent kids. One day, if you have not done so, I recommend sitting down and having a conversation with someone who has fought in these wars. Someone who fought in Iraq, Have a sit down discussion with them, because some of the things that they have seen and they have experienced may surprise you. It's horrific. My dad talks about some of these things with me today. He did not talk to me about it when I was younger, and I understand why. And then those same soldiers come back, the ones who do make it back to the United States, they come back here and they have PTSD. They've seen their friends killed. They have lost family members. They've seen children. Just this does something to you as a person. They come back to the United States, and then now they're expecting to get some type of support from the United States government because they went abroad and they fought for their country. They only come back here only to find out just how screwed up the veteran affairs system is and how they treat veterans when they come back to this country. They realize that it's not that easy for them to get an appointment to see someone at the VA. They realize that it's not that easy to be put on disability, even though they may have a clear physical disability that happened in war. There's still all this paperwork and all these different appointments that they have to go through. And then some of them have to be treated for PTSD. It is only then during that time that they realize just how corrupt the system is in this country. And when I talk about the healthcare system, I'm talking about the VA as well. Because the VA has been known to drag their feet for a long time. It can take people months. It can take people years. It took my dad years to get 100% disability. Years. So you do all of this. You risk your life. You go abroad. You fight in these ridiculous, endless wars. You lose friends in the process who were there fighting with you. They don't get to come back home. You see kids being killed. You can't sleep at night because you hear bombs going off. So when you come back to the United States, you still can't sleep. This happens. And the country who sent you there, who told you to go fight for your country, when you come back to that country, you are disregarded. A lot of the homeless people that I see are veterans. There are people who fought in Vietnam, people who fought in Iraq. A lot of them are veterans. It's all connected. The military industrial complex, the healthcare system, the education system, all these systems that I talk about on this show, they're all connected. And they all go back to the class issue, because the people at the top, they don't have to do this. The people at the top, they don't have to go fight abroad. A lot of people that do join the military do so to get out of poverty, to get out of the financial situation that they're in. And that sometimes includes student loans, because that's another way that they'll get you. Join the military. You only got to serve for like 5 to 6 years and we'll pay off all your student loans. So it's a corrupt system all around. There's one more point I want to mention in this article, and then I'm going to go to the next story. This is a really good article, by the way. Eric, I don't know if you've put this in the chat. There was one more part that I wanted to mention. This part right here. Just this line here. They believe violence magically solves all disputes. And I want to hear what you guys think about that. They believe violence magically solves all disputes. But it doesn't. There are some people who believe this. They believe that out of chaos will come peace. If that's the case, why do we still have all these endless wars that have been going on for years? Do you consider it peaceful that the people in those countries are now suffering because of the conflict that has happened there, because the US intervened? Is that considered peace? I don't think so. I don't think so. But yes, some people believe that. They believe that out of all this chaos and destruction will come peace. I'm going to go to some of the comments and I'll go to my final story. Thanks for the super chat. None of your business. Where are the churches to stand against war? Well, they've been propagandized too. None of your business. I'm glad you brought that up. They've been propagandized too. A lot of times, and I can tell you, as someone who was, I grew up in the church. A lot of times when I would go to church on Sunday, they would actually repeat the same talking points that mainstream media would repeat. Believe it or not, the same talking points. Yes, our president has us over there right now, and we're fighting the good fight. We're doing what the good Lord told us to do. Go over there and fight the good fight. Pretty sure the Bible does not say you're just supposed to go out there and slaughter people. I don't know what book they're reading. Some of these preachers have also been propagandized as well. They just it's the same message, and this is another way that they get you. That's another way that they get you, especially the African American community. If they don't get that propaganda from the news, from mainstream media, if they're not getting it from CNN, from MSNBC, from Fox News, say it's someone who doesn't have cable, say it's someone who just doesn't really watch TV. If they don't get it there, we'll get them in the church. We'll get the preacher to deliver that message. You'd be surprised. Yeah, Leroy is right. Black faces in high places. There you go. There you go. There was one more comment I wanted to. Venus said the soldiers all come back extremely traumatized. Some deal with it better than others, but the government throws them to the curb. Exactly. It takes a long time, you guys. You talk to anyone who's worked at the VA, it takes a long time for a lot of that paperwork to go through. I Hate Work 420 said chaos only brings more chaos. I agree. Eric O, I hope I am the last of a line of 4 generations of veterans. But at the rate we are in the USA are going, probably not so much. Gamer and Ganja for life. And veterans who come home have tons of PTSD and can't get the help they need. It's awful. Yes, yes. Ashura says, at Sabby, that's evil wish thinking violence. That's evil wish thinking violence always solves things. Someone or people's lives always get wrecked afterwards. Yep. Sorry, guys. I can't talk tonight. I'm tongue tied. All right, I am going into our final story tonight. And this one is about Emma Vigeland and Sam Seder, and they're discussing this whole issue with AOC and Amazon. And what I do want to note for those of you who didn't see Friday's episode, there was a clip where it was Emma and Nomiki, and they were talking about AOC not appearing at Amazon, and there were some valid points, I would say, and then Nomiki kind of lost it. If you haven't seen that clip, go back and watch that clip. She kind of exploded there a little bit, started blaming people that really weren't attached to this, like Aaron Mate, Jimmy Dore, and then she lashed out at Crystal, who she said is her friend. It was just really weird. It was strange. But anyway, long story short, Nomiki was really trying to defend AOC. So now Sam Seder and Emma Vigeland, this recently came out after that, and they have a little bit of a different opinion on it. And I want you to hear what they're going to say. Let me go past this little part here. I don't want to play that music. All right, we'll start here. So listen to what they say about this situation. Now, just remember, Sam Seder was not on the other episode with Nomiki and Emma.
Lately about AOC and what role progressive lawmakers should play in supporting organizing. Been playing a lot of Dark Souls lately, and it gave me a guess as to why this attempt succeeded where Bessemer failed. To take on a massive institution, you need to stay in its blind spot and prioritize avoiding its big direct attacks over maximum impact per action done. It's even better when you have allies pulling the attention and resources of the bosses. We heard far more about Bessemer and all the big names show up. You know, I thought about this. And I think it's an interesting theory. It may be why they won, but I happen to, like, look, Amazon spent a lot of money. They had a lot of resources. It's one thing having AOC go to Bessemer. It's another having it go to Staten Island from, Queens.
And a lot of her constituents live in her district, but work there, I would guess.
Right. So this is a part I want to chime in on here. Emma said she would guess that a lot of her constituents live in her district, but they work at that Amazon facility. So this isn't actually something that Emma needs to guess. There were multiple interviews with Chris Smalls on Status Quo before they won this election and after they won this election, and other media outlets as well, where Chris confirmed that a lot of the constituents in her district work at this facility. But I think what's important to note here is they're not mentioning that AOC ghosted them. It's not like, and I hate to bring this up again, but I want to make this very clear to people. It's not like the organizers at the Staten Island location were hoping that AOC would come and get involved. She said she would be there. She confirmed to have an appearance, and she ghosted them that day. Status Quo was with them that day on the ground, and Status Quo interviewed the organizers, and they explained, well, she did not show up. After they had finally heard from her people as to why she did not show up, the reason that they gave, by the way, this is all on video. So you should go to Status Quo when you can see all of this. The reason that her team gave is that they felt the event that was happening with the Staten Island location was too thug. I'm not exaggerating. This is all on video, was too thug, too street-like. So the excuses that AOC gave on Twitter when she said she was worried about, security, it wasn't in her district, that was kind of the save face, but it just like basically spit right back in her face. But that right there, to me, I wish they would mention that. Like Emma and Nomiki didn't mention it. Sam and Emma, and if I remember correctly in this clip, they're not going to mention it either. But that is something that needs to be said, because that tells you something about who AOC really is. She claims to be from the Bronx, and we realize, I explained to you guys later on, she grew up in the suburbs. She might have been born there, but she grew up in the suburbs. I explained to you that her father was president of that architect company that he worked at. Someone had mentioned to me also earlier today that he owned the apartment building that they lived in the Bronx. Now, I didn't know that part, but this goes back to the class issue again, because this is what I was trying to tell you guys. And you're like, oh, why do you always bring up class? Because at the end of the day, a lot of these DSA people, they're not really trying to mingle with some of us. She may be a progressive per se. She may be a part of the squad, but at the end of the day, she picking and choosing what she wants to be a part of. And I guess this kind of comes across in a sense like she felt like she was too good for them. It's beneath her. Everybody get the point. That's the point I'm really trying to drive home. It was beneath her. It was too street. It was too thug. So she's going to say yes to something like the Met Gala. That's something that celebrities go to. That's a celebrity event, by the way. It costs thousands of dollars just to get in the door and thousands of dollars just to get a table at the Met Gala. She went in there. She flaunted around with her tax the rich dress. Those are the people that she want to mingle with. And this is the point I was trying to bring out to people. She's not trying to really be out there in the street with the working class people anymore. She want to mingle with the crowd that she saw at the Met Gala. Those the people she want to come out for. She not trying to come out to this event at Amazon and be amongst the common folk because it's too street. Now, someone from the Bronx that grew up in the Bronx, would they say that something's too street or too thug? Let's go back into the video. Let's go back in. This is just a mess, man. I told you guys I used to live in New York, so this stuff to me is just, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. This is why I continue to bring up the class issue. She's showing you who she really is. Here we go.
I would guess.
Right. And it's not a question of like, it, you know, even if you think you're going to piss off this people in Staten Island, because they're all, very Republican over there. I think that's something that you would have said to Christian Smalls. If it was a strategic decision to be like, it's better for us to hang back, but we can send you these resources.
Right.
That I think your theory would be correct. Your theory may be correct as to why, maybe the one I don't think so. I think there was a lot of resources deployed there. I think Amazon knew exactly how problematic this was.
But in terms of like, I don't know, it could be right. It could be right that was why, it slipped through and it was able to be successful. But it doesn't.
Right, could be successful.
But it doesn't mean that
plan.
Ocasio-Cortez's blind spot wasn't apparent, or she missed it here, right?
So this is the problem. It's not a blind spot. This is not a blind spot. There's a difference between telling someone that you're going to come to an event and ghosting them. That's not a blind spot. That's a choice. That's a decision. I'm glad that Emma's giving her some type of criticism here, but at the same time, they're missing the point. She ghosted them. It was too street. It was too thug. That's not a blind spot. That's that same type of elitist. This is what I was talking about. This elitist, classist attitude. AOC is a part of that class. Let me go back in.
I have an issue with it being capitalized on for clicks, and I wish her response was more like, I messed up here. But it's just, again, it's like, I feel it's like such small ball that what we're talking about.
No. Well, AOC is the reason why it was capitalized on for clicks, because had AOC not made it about her, which this event was not about her to begin with, she wasn't there. She didn't come out, right? She bailed, she ghosted. She made it about her on Twitter. Had she not done this, Crystal Ball wouldn't have responded to that tweet, and we wouldn't be talking about this today. What would have been the right thing to do for AOC would have been to just pick up the phone, call Chris Smalls, text Chris Smalls, apologize. It's my bad. I was not there. And also apologize for the remarks that your team made about them being too street and too thug too, by the way. And I don't hear a lot of people mentioning that. I'm noticing. I've been watching. I'm paying attention. I'm not seeing a lot of commentators mentioning that she basically belittled the event, saying it was too street and too thug. That needs to be said. So again, AOC is the one who made it about her. Instead of pointing fingers at the podcasters and the commentators, point fingers at the politician. That's the problem I have with it. Like, this is one of those opportunities where the politician was in the wrong. Call out the politician instead of calling out podcasters for discussing what happened when she made it about her. Let's be real. I really think when AOC made that tweet, I think she did that to get attention on herself. I think she likes a lot of attention. I think that's why she wore that dress to the Met Gala, the Tax the Rich, because she knew it would get a lot of attention. I think she likes to have a lot of attention on her. I think she wants to be a celebrity. What I think she does not want is for people to come in and criticize. But you can't have it both ways. Anytime you're in like a media space, you're in front of the camera, people are going to critique you. I know from experience, and I'm a small channel. People criticize me all the time. I give zero fucks. I think that is the difference. She wants the attention. I think she likes the attention. If she didn't want this attention, why ever turn around? I see her on Vogue. I see all these different magazine covers. She wants to be noticed. She wants the focus and the attention on her. But then she gets upset when people call her out, when people criticize her. You don't get to have it that way. Anybody in the public spotlight like that, if you think people are just going to praise you and not critique you and criticize you, then maybe that is not the right job for you, especially being a politician. I'm going to go to some of these chats here, and then I'm going to go back into the video. Thanks for the super chat. Ashura said, too thug, too street equal liberal, covert dog whistle. Right. Exactly. That's a class issue. Kit. Is it Kit from Hard Lens or is it a dragon? I think it's Kit from Hard Lens. When we tried to interview DSA folks in 2017, 2018, it was like pulling teeth. Yeah. Some of them DSA types, man. I don't know, man. I've seen some of the things they've said to people on Twitter. Thanks for the super chat, Ashura. Staten Island, very Republican, but Smalls won. LOL. Staten Island is actually, let me come back to that, Ashura. Let me get through these and I'll come back to that because I do have something to say about that. The Enrique Speed said they really don't want to admit AOC doesn't like working class people. Bingo. She's Black said they are still low-key defending AOC. Gamer and Ganja for life. The real protesters got arrested while AOCIA got rich and famous. Exactly. Thanks for the super chat. None of your business. It was too small and poor, black, brown, white. Yo. Thank you for the super chat. And thank you for this super chat, Colin. AOC didn't even acknowledge Smalls in her tweet, only Crystal. Elitist infighting at the expense of the working class. And thank you for mentioning that, Colin. That is incredibly true. She didn't even respond to Chris Smalls. Chris Smalls was in that thread. She didn't even respond. She responded to Crystal Ball. Guess you got to be a blue check for her to respond to you. She's above us now. She's not down with the people anymore. There you go. There you go. Something I was going to say about Staten Island being Republican. That's actually pretty true based on what I've seen. Like when I lived in New York, it does tend to be more conservative there. By conservative, I mean like voting wise, more Republican. I'm not sure why, but that is something that I did notice when I lived in New York. Monarch, Sabby, any idea if Amy Goodman reported on that petty matter of AOC? I'm not sure. I'd have to check. Miguel said AOC responded to a bunch of blue check marks, but ignored Chris Smalls entirely. Yeah. Yep. But you say you're for the working class people. You're fighting for the working class. See how people change once they get in? Here we go back in.
Supported their effort, and she could have done more, but she didn't.
Nevertheless, I think the thing too that really, you look to a couple of these organizers and realize that they did an amazing job. And I think it's also just as likely that perhaps because they were independent of a union, they got support from some unions, but they ran independently. They were not taking the workers themselves were making the strategic decisions.
Boom. Well, Sam, that's what some of us have been trying to tell you, that are telling people that this whole strategy of putting progressives through the Democratic Party is not working, that you actually come out better if you just run independently. And that way you're not answering to anybody with any type of big money interest. And you're not going into a party that's controlled by Wall Street. Now, I know this is a labor situation, but I think what we need to do is I think we need to take some of these strategies that are done through labor. And I think that is how we are going to get independent and third party people winning some of these races. It would be good to talk to some of these organizers and ask them, the ones that have won on the labor level, how they did it, what were the strategies that they used, and seeing if we can apply that in a political way. I think that would be a smart idea. But here is Sam telling you they did it independently. This is why I say, like, when you want to look at direct action, when you want to look at mutual aid, you don't need politicians for that. You really don't. Now, if you have a politician come out and support and help with the event, will that get more people out? Will that get more like recognition to your event? Absolutely, 100%. But this is the thing about the people coming together and rising up and not relying on the Democratic Party or the Republican Party to fix issues for you. They're not going to help the people. They're not going to help the people. They're going to help corporations. They're going to help their donors. They're going to help the military industrial complex. And that's it. We're not on their list. The only time they give us any type of benefit, if it's something that is temporary, which we've seen in the past year or so, or if it's something that benefits corporate interests. Other than that, on the federal level, they're not really going to give us anything. So there you go. I think this is something to keep in mind, something that we really need to think about. What he just said, let's listen to it again. Here we go.
And realize that they did an amazing job. And, I think it's also just as likely that perhaps because they were independent of a union, they got support from some unions, but they ran independently. They were not taking the workers themselves were making the strategic decisions. I think there's something to that, and that they understood who they were dealing with more than any union coming from the outside could, because there was no
politician
for that matter.
What? Or politician? What? Guys, they just been proving the point that me and the rest of us over RBN been trying to tell people. We need to flip the way we do things in this country. Instead of 80% focused on electoral politics and 20% focused on direct action and mutual aid, we need to flip that, and 80% should be focused on direct action, mutual aid, and only 20% should be focused on electoral politics. And when it comes to electoral politics, I'm really talking about the main focus should be on the local level. What you can do locally with electoral politics. You have a better chance of accomplishing more on the local level than you do on the federal level. There is a New York Health Act that people are trying to pass in New York State to give everybody in New York health care. I'm not seeing a lot of these commentators that live in New York talk about it. That is a big deal. If this passes, this is a big deal, because even people that live in New Jersey but work in New York would still fall under the New York Health Act. Gotta shift the focus. You gotta shift the way we've been doing things. Gotta shift it. Let's go back in.
But certainly would it have helped? I would imagine it would, or if it wasn't going to help, I would have liked to have heard an explanation.
Like what first one we mentioned, I think, she should have been gone there, been more vocally supportive. That's my opinion. I'm sure that they had a bunch of other things going on, but I think it should have been prioritized by her. But like, that's kind of where it ends for me, because an over focus on Ocasio-Cortez after there was this massive victory by Amazon employees to unionize here is only to brand your YouTube channel.
But I would argue that not focusing on her at all and giving her too much leeway is also to brand your YouTube channel, because you want to continue to have access to those politicians. You want to continue to have access to AOC. You want to continue to have access to Nina Turner. You want to continue to have access to other members of the squad and any other progressive that is running this time around. I would say that that is also considered a type of branding exercise. I think this is part of the reason why you see people like Emma Vigeland and Sam Seder, why they are not heavily critical of those progressive politicians, because they still want those politicians to come on their show. And if you pay very close attention, you don't really see the Squad or even Nina Turner, you don't really see them go onto the other shows anymore. Whereas like they used to go on to Jimmy Dore's show. They had been on Kyle's show at one point or another, actually a couple times probably. They used to go on to other independent media shows. If you notice, you don't see them do that anymore. They'll go on to TYT and Majority Report. That's pretty much where the buck stops. And Jimmy Dore was actually the first person that had AOC on. Some people don't remember that. So once you start criticizing them and once you start trying to hold them accountable, then they don't want to come on your show. Why do you think you haven't seen them on these other shows? John Smokey. I like when Sabby sees a turd, she calls it a turd. I don't know. But it's just something to think about. Again, like I said, you can't criticize them too much because then they're not going to come back on your show and you're going to lose access to them. That's what this is really about. It's access journalism. Let's just be real.
That is not what the focus should be. It should be on Chris, on all of the other union organizers there, and how can we take this fight to other areas of the country. That's what it should.
I do agree. I do agree with that. The main focus should be on Chris and how we can spread this across the country. But that does not mean that you should not be heavily critical of AOC.
I do think there is value in pushing, those congresspeople and other politicians who did not show up, to make them pay a little bit of a price and make sure that there's an understanding of we see you and you got to do this more. But
what did that just come from Sam Seder? What is happening here? Did you guys just hear that? Did you just hear that? It's funny because when Jackson Hinkle debated Sam Seder, he was saying that same thing. And Sam Seder he didn't understand it. He was like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? That's how he said it. He didn't understand it. Did he say what I just think he said? Listen to this again. Here we go. Let's go.
Those congresspeople and other politicians who did not show up, to make them pay a little bit of a price and make sure that there's an understanding of we see you and you got to.
Here we go. I think I went back too little.
Okay. Those congresspeople and other politicians who did not show up, to make them pay a little bit of a price and make sure that there's an understanding of we see you and you got to do this more. But I do think
that's what we've been saying all this time. And when we do it, they said we were secret right wingers. Because we saw the writing on the wall, on the wall. Oh my God. I've been living in Boston too long, you guys. We saw the writing on the wall over a year ago. We saw them for what they really were. We saw that they weren't going to push. They weren't going to do anything. I don't know how many more tragic events need to happen for other people to wake up and see it too. They are bought opposition at this point. They are not going to help.
I think that
but why is there a focus on, I don't know. There's a focus on
there was
one
a news story with her.
See, Emma's playing dumb here. She's like, but why is there a focus on? No, she knows why there's a focus on AOC. She just doesn't want the focus to be on AOC. Again, AOC put the attention on herself. Had she had just done what I said she should have done before, just reached out to Chris privately and not make this all about her so she can get some attention and some type of respect for something that she was not involved in, that she really did not do and she was not a part of, this would not even have been a situation. Emma's being disingenuous. She knows exactly why there's attention on AOC. She just doesn't want there to be attention on AOC because that's someone that she supports, and that would be bad for their show. That's what that is about.
Well, because Smalls talked about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And B, she has the ability to draw attention to things in a way that no other really Democratic politician does. And, this seemingly is something that she should be deploying those resources for. If there's a legit reason why she didn't, she should be out there and being a little bit more, explaining that, and also explaining to the leaders who are organizing.
What happened to Sam Seder? Who am I listening to right now? Is this the same person? What happened? What happened? I don't know. I don't want to get too excited and think maybe the tide's turning, but something is amiss here. Something is up.
Prior to it.
Yeah.
So that,
But it's a degree. It's like it's a debate about degrees, because she was supportive of the effort. She just wasn't on the ground, which again, I think is a fair critique. But there's
No, Emma. See how Emma's not telling you that AOC ghosted them? She's like, well, she just wasn't on the ground. She is purposely leaving out the fact that she ghosted the event. She ghosted it.
But the overfocus on it is frustrating because it's not the story here, in my opinion, at all.
AOC made it the story. She made it. She made it about her. So you're getting mad. Like, this is what kills me. You're getting mad at the podcasters who were talking about it. It seems like to me your frustration should be on AOC because she's the one who made the story about her. What? Has she done this before? Oh, yes, she has. There's been other times where she's made a story that was about other people, about her. Let's go back to January 6th and the video she posted on Instagram. AOC made it about her. I was running. I was scared. Like, dude, you were already in a safe space. Nobody was chasing you. Attention seeking. That's what it's about.
I think the overfocus is probably not as large as it seems to us because it's in a corner of Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Or, it's done to appeal to a largely right-wing audience.
See, there she goes again. She's trying to say, oh, it's done to appeal to right wing. No, this has nothing to do with the right wing audience. This woman is delusional. This has nothing to do with trying to appeal to a right wing audience. At least it doesn't for me. This has to do with the fact that you have a progressive politician who was a member of the squad, who said she was one of the working class people. She would fight for working class people, who said that she was going to be at that event, who ghosted Chris Smalls the day of the event, who her team finally got back to them and said that she decided not to go because they considered the event to be too street or too thug. I don't understand where right wing fits in that equation at all. This is 100% on AOC. She fucked up. She showed people exactly who she is and what type of events she wants to support. They have to be on a certain level for her. Can't be too street or too thug. That's what this is about. Emma just doesn't want to put that frustration on AOC because she wants to continue to believe that these progressive politicians that they told everybody to vote for and canvass for and volunteer for are really going to do a good job. She doesn't want to believe that they are failing. She doesn't want to admit they're not passing any bills, any type of legislation. Right now, they are just placeholders holding on to a damn name, and they are not living up to the description of that name. That is what is happening. Whatever personal issues Emma and Nomiki seem to have with Crystal Ball and Sagar and all those people over on K Street, whatever the fuck you want to call it, It seems like that should be handled privately. But you cannot take away from the fact that what AOC did was just corrupt. It was so messed up. And she's not even mentioning that she ghosted, and she didn't mention that it was too street and too thug. That is a classist problem. Why would she leave that out?
Cultivated.
But both those things are true.
I'm going to go to some of the comments. Thanks so much for the super chat. Ashura says, I meant Smalls was able to win with right wingers. Exactly, because with labor, people aren't like, are you on the left or are you on the right? People are like, yeah, I want more benefits. You want more benefits. Let's fight together. That left and right BS mainly applies to the political arena. When people trying to fight for the workers and labor in this country, people aren't thinking about that. Les says, I question if AOC was ever down with the people. Well, we all know she didn't grow up in the Bronx. That's for sure. That story that they told. Not saying you have to grow up in the Bronx, but damn, don't lie about it. Oh my God. Leroy says Emma and them enable these people. Yep, they want to continue to have access. Captain Obvious says, don't worry when Sam says pay a little bit of a price. He means a very, very, very little bit. Razal the Great says she is speaking to her class of people. Therefore, she will never mention the parts that peel off the mask. There you go. There you go. Guys, I have an exciting event coming up. April 22nd. Why don't you join me if you're in the area? This is actually with Massachusetts Peace Action. It's called Rally People Planet and Peace Over Profit. This is April 22nd from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. This Earth Day, we come together across movements and borders calling for solutions as big as the crisis is barreling down on us. Climate collapse, endless war, crushing economic and racial inequality, recurrent pandemic, rising authoritarianism, and the assault on freedoms of press, privacy, and protest. Join on April 22nd at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The rally will be at Park Street Station in Boston to call for people, planet, and peace greater than profit. This event is co-sponsored by Massachusetts Peace Action, Revolutionary Blackout Network, whoop whoop, Answer Coalition, the Green Rainbow Party, the Raytheon Anti-War Campaign, Massachusetts Poor People's Campaign, Hero Nurturing Center, and Boston Area Assange Defense. Here are the demands. Emergency World War II scale Green New Deal, just transition to 100% renewables by 2030, an economic bill of rights, global Green New Deal, support civil liberties and human rights, community control of police, end militarism, imperialism, colonialism, and economic warfare, global ceasefire, join global nuclear weapons ban, economic justice, build real democracy, and much, much more. If you are going to be in the area, guys, definitely join. So this is one of the direct action events I'll be doing this month. And then on April 25th, I will be doing Tour for the Poor with Rome in Boston. We'll be on the ground. If you live in the area and you want to help us, let me know. Send me an email. My email link is underneath the details tab in all of my videos. So email me and let me know if you want to come and help. I have a lot of tents. The tents came today, so we'll be giving out tents. And I think Rome said we're going to try to get blankets as well. I'm looking back because the tents are in this room. You just can't see them. I'm making sure they're out of the camera view. Yeah, they're out of the camera view. If you want to help, definitely, email me and let me know, you guys, because the more people we have to help us, the better, But yeah, this peace action, this Earth Day, you guys, this is a big deal. we have to realize that the military industrial complex is the largest single most polluter in the world. So no matter what we do on our end, we can try our best, right? We can recycle, we can compost, right? But at the end of the day, it is the military industrial complex that is going to cause this planet to just go kaboom. It really is. So we got to like fight back on that. So I'm looking forward to this event. I believe I have to double check, but last time I checked, I believe Dr. Jill Stein will be at this event as well. So definitely check that out. And someone was asking me this recently as well. I got to remember to do this because I'm horrible at telling you about my links, and I'm sorry. But it was someone did remind me today that I need to let you guys know that I am on Odyssey, and I forget to tell you guys that. So if you're following me here, definitely follow me on Odyssey as well. I'll put the thing here. Actually, it should be in the details description of this video. Let me see. Take a look at me now. I don't know why I just said that. That was so random. Where did Phil Collins come in? Yes, so my Odyssey link is here. I'll share it with you. I don't know why I just started singing that song. There's just an empty space. Take a look at me now. All right, this is the link for my Odyssey. And guys, if you're wondering where you can find like other links of mine, I'll put this. What the heck, man? YouTube sent me the whole description link. Hold on. Odyssey. What happens if I just click on it? Aha, there we go. Yeah, this is the link for my Odyssey page. So I just put that in the chat. There's just an empty space. 'Cause you coming back to me. Oh, I gotta stop. So yeah, definitely follow me on Odyssey, you guys. So I put that there. And I like that one too. Revolutionary Dissident Susu Studio. Susu Studio. Oh, I can't keep running out of my mind. Oh, and someone else was asking me this too. Yeah, so definitely you guys, like when you see my videos, if you, I'll make this larger for you to see. Uh-oh. I don't know what happened there. Now I can see the whole chat. Okay. If you go to the details tab, it's usually underneath the title and you can hit show less. I'll show you what it looks like. And then if you click here, you'll see like all these other links. So that's the one for call-in. I guess I should have put Substack here too. There's a roundtable website. Oh, and I don't think I even told you guys about this. Don't follow me on Instagram. I suck on Instagram. I'm sorry. I've tried in life. It doesn't work well for me. Also, someone pointed this out to me too. Like, you guys didn't know that I have merch. I've had that for a while. I just forget to tell people. I'm sorry. But yeah, I do have merch too. So that link is also in the details tab as well. So there's all my Sabby Sab stuff. You can get a t-shirt, hats. There used to be a hoodie here. Where's my hoodie? Oh, there it is. There's hoodies. And you can get a Sabby Sab mug. This tends to be the favorite for some reason. Most people get the mug. I have that mug too, actually. Yeah. It's cute. It's me drinking tea. Someone actually made that for me, by the way. They made that artwork for me. So there's me drinking my tea. But yeah, just meant to tell you guys that because I forget to mention these things. I'm just not good about it. I just put it under the details portion and figure people will find it some way, shape, or another. But that's pretty much it, you guys. I got to head out. I'm past my time. Studio. Oh. All right. Whoever said that, you have that in my head now. Now I'm going to have that song in my head. What did you say? Creative experiments got to purge Phil Collins from my mind now. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. All right, guys, I'm heading out. Tomorrow, I do have a guest coming. They are a third party candidate. They'll be here, and I have 2 news stories for you. So, oh, George, I'm sorry. Oh, George, I have to work in the morning, George. That's why I have to go. Studio. Bye bye, Tune Sabby. Bye. Bye, guys. All right, guys. If you didn't get a chance to, don't forget to hit that like button. That really helps me with the algorithm. Other than that, guys, have a good night. Keep up the fight.